Hello, everyone. I do apologize. That was me trying to get unmuted here. I should have done it before. But welcome to Winning in Prayer Saturday Sit Down. We are back for 2023. We haven't done one since October, so I'm excited about being back on tonight with the partners. I have Prophetess Debbie Godwin and I have Dr. Betty Love. She is on with us. Of course, I am Pastor Tammy. And Apostle is on a different assignment today, but we're going to carry on just as we usually do. We actually flow really good together, all four of us, but we're really going to flow tonight. So tonight is basically about women in business, women entrepreneurs that are in the kingdom, as in the natural marketplace and in the kingdom on tonight. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us, Yvette Brown. Thank you for everyone that is going to be coming on. Share. Get your devices out and share tonight so that they know what we're on. We are talking about women entrepreneurs in the natural workplace as well as in the kingdom. We do have a guest that is coming on tonight. Her name is Pastor Sean Claxton, and she is a woman in ministry, a retired educator, and a business owner at the moment that we speak. So we'll be glad and happy to have her on tonight. So tonight I'm going to kind of move out of the way. I'm here, but I'm going to move out of the way because we have entrepreneurs in with our partners. They're entrepreneurs and business folks and leaders in their fields. So I'm going to give way to them and let them talk a little bit about their experiences in the workplace as being a safe woman, and then how do we show Christ in the workplace as a woman. So I'm going to give it over to Prophetess Debbie Godwin so that she can begin to tell her experiences and what she does. She's going to introduce her business and everything on tonight. So go ahead, Prophet Debbie. We'll be here listening and waiting to hear your information.
All right. I just want to say I am grateful for another opportunity to share with my sister.
Yes.
I'm grateful to even be called a woman. I can say I'm called a woman. God made me a woman. My experience, I've been in ministry actually since 2005. The Lord graciously called me to the ministry in 2005. My business itself, it's been in existence since 2011, but I was not really pursuing all parts of it until last year, where I brought all the pieces together and actually began to pursue my business. The name of my business is Pennywise Payroll Tax and Accounting Services. And so
Yes.
it has been my experience as a woman in ministry who both is in ministry and owns a business that I've found that you really have to keep Christ on the forefront of your mind, no matter what you're doing, because there are challenges that you face as a woman in ministry, as a woman in business, that other people may not face just because we are a woman, and I've
Right.
had some experience in just dealing with just basic business and how people approach you and how they deal with you as a woman. I can go in and buy, say, a set of tires as a woman, just on the basic. And I've found that they will treat me different. I've even had people to ask me where my husband was because, I'm this woman coming to buy this product or to do this thing. The type of work that I do, I'm a payroll administrator. I've been in the business of paying people for 30 years. And so it is a constant challenge, I want to say, that you face, because although I don't walk around and tell people I'm a minister or this or this, I try to show it in my behavior and in the way that I
Yes.
treat them. And so I try to always make sure that I keep God on the forefront of whatever I do, even when people rub you wrong, even when they come wrong, even when they attack you, even when they disrespect you, God has to come up, and there's been times on just my natural job, my regular job, where people have really like come at me, and I've had to pick up the phone and, as they say, phone a friend and say, I need you to walk me down, because I'm ready in my flesh. I'm ready to go in and go after, because I'm this kind of person. I try to treat people the way I want to be treated. I give respect because I want respect, right? But all the time people don't reciprocate that. I had an experience with a boss, and I won't say which boss, but I had an experience where I went through months and months and weeks where this person was literally just coming after me, and doing everything to put me on display, talking down to me. And it was really, really getting to me. I had to just pray and talk to God and talk to my friends and just walk myself through it. And the Lord actually let me know. He said, she is a bully. She's a bully, and so I figured out sometimes, just as people don't even understand why they don't like you, right? They will look at you. They don't understand. It's the Christ that aggravates them, when they, and if, they don't see you get out of character, no matter what they do. Sometimes you can be boiling inside, because of the treatment or how people handle you. But I thank God for grace upon my life. I even had an experience with a gentleman, one of my first client last year. It was a male, and this guy looked me up and sought me out to do payroll for his business. And it was like pulling teeth to get things from him. And I would send him messages and he would just disregard me. And it just finally got to a point where I said, now, Lord, if this is you, if this is you giving me this business, you're trying to hand me this business, I think about the scripture that says this: the blessings of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow.
Yes.
And so I was like, trying to get this guy EIN, the federal tax numbers, and everything I needed in order to set him and his employees up. And this guy just would not comply. He would not. It was like, and finally I came to this conclusion. I talked it over with my friend. I realized that everything that comes to us, whether you're male or female, is not always God sent, right? And so you have to be able to make that distinction. And sometimes that may mean letting go of that particular client. So after going weeks and weeks trying to pull information, and we were getting very close to when he was supposed to go live and I was actually supposed to take over doing his employees, I realized that this guy was just not going to be compliant. And I had to write him a letter of terminating our agreement. Even before we got started, I had to terminate it. And that was hard, as a new business owner, to make a decision that this is way too much of a struggle, too much work. This person is not respecting my time. They're not respecting when I send them an email and set a deadline and saying this is what you have to do. So I believe that, it's not just a woman thing, but I do believe as women in business, we do have more challenges just because, as James Brown said many years ago, he said, this is a man's world. But then he went on to say, but it wouldn't be anything without a woman. And so I find that to be true. We are, even statistically, we are amongst women are more educated, and especially, sometimes we have been given, or we've been placed this label on us as quote unquote angry Black women when we speak. When we are about our business and we say, this is what it has to be. This is what I need. And if you can't comply with this, then we cannot do business together. So, I go in, like I said, I've been in business since 2011, but pulling all pieces together. So I do payroll, I do personal income tax, I do business income tax, I do a compliance where I would actually go into a company and make sure that they are compliant with the laws and the rules and regulations according to how they are processing their payroll, how they are paying payrolls. Because of my experience of doing this for 30 years, I've had so on several accounts, I've had an opportunity to be audited by the wage and hour. And so it is not a fun thing. It is not something that I would want anybody to have to endure, because if you're not keeping right and doing what you need to do, it is something that you really, really need to be aware of. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to share the business, and in turn be able to be a light, because sometimes I think as Christians, we only we place God only in church, right? Mm-hmm. God should be a part of everything that we do. He should not just be a church thing. He should be your business. He should be on your job. He tells us in his word that we work as unto the Lord, not unto man. Although we know they are watching, what we do is as unto the Lord. Right. I'll tell you an experience I had being a Christian woman in business. And this was on my actual job one time. It was with a previous employer. In my searching and verifying things, I was trying to get a W-2 for someone, and looking at their wages, I found that they had not added third-party sick pay to the W-2, which should have been reported with their regular wages. And I took it to the chief financial officer, and I presented this information like, we need to fix this. I talked to the payroll processing company. They told us we were going to have to, redo the 941s and all the stuff we were going to have to do, right? And so basically what this gentleman said to me was, they're not going to fix it, and we're going to just treat this, manually fix it. We're not open. We're not fixing it up and doing any of that. So basically what he's saying, he wanted me to cover it. And so my words to him is, I am not comfortable doing this. I am aware that there is a problem. There is a problem in the federal, state, local level. This person's done too. Matter of fact, it was 6 people. It's wrong. And so so he says, well, I understand, that. And so what I did to cover myself was I put it in email form, and I replied to him to let him know. And then of course, copy myself. So I'm saying, if this ever comes up in the future, it will be said that I told you the problem. I told you what you had to do, and you did not comply. So being a Christian means doing the right thing, even when people will tempt you or suggest to you, we don't have to fix this, so we can just, if they catch us, they catch us. If they don't, they don't. And so I often tell people, because I have privy to all bank accounts, from the president to all people, I say these words to them: I am not going to jail for anybody. On GP. I ain't going to body. Right. I'm gonna do, tell me you can add some extra digits. I said, no, we're not doing that, And so working with money and having privy to everybody's information is another level of, you have to have some integrity. Absolutely. You have to have integrity. You can't just do things, if you want to cut corners, you can't do that, And even in being business being in business for myself, right now I'm at a period of time with my one client where it's W-2 times, it's local tax, it's federal tax time. And so I am like going over this information, because consciously I want to present information to people that is correct, that has been reviewed again, to make sure that what I am presenting or giving and filing as it pertains to a 941 state tax, local tax, that it is ethically and logically correct. So, it is an experience. It is it's about growing and being open as a woman, and just I just believe always keeping God. He stays in the forefront of my mind.
Correct.
Cut
And
titles.
that should be our goal for everyone.
Yes.
And if you are a businesswoman and you have listened to Dr. I deemed you a doctor already. That must mean something. To Prophetess Debbie, and you are a woman in business, you probably have experienced some of these things. So God has to go along with us in every area. So we're going to give it over to Dr. Love. And I want her to share her experience as a leader in her field. And she is a nurse, but she's a manager. She's a nurse too, but she's a manager of nurses. She's over nurses. She has worked in many hospitals. She's traveling right now. Oh, she's ready to retire too. And I know she's probably happy about that. But we're going to give it over to her so that she can share her experience as being a leader, where she came from, how she started, and then we'll go into our guest, Pastor Sean. Go ahead, Dr. Love.
Praise the Lord, everyone.
Praise
so my journey has been a journey that when you look at your life and you know for sure, positive, that God has set certain things in place for you, and there is no doubt. I mean, I could talk for 2 hours, to be honest, about being in the work environment, and then not only being a chief nursing officer, but being in a position that usually the people don't look like us. So that's one of the things that I've had to encounter as I would climb the ladder, and be advanced. Each time there was a barrier, there was someone else that thought they were more deserving of the position, and they would voice those concerns. Wow. When I was working on my doctorate degree, I remember being criticized by others. Why do you need that? When I worked on my master's degree in nursing, a lot of people at that time did not have their master's degree. And I decided God led me. Let me not say I decided, God led me. Because at that time, it was really unheard of to get your master's in nursing. Everyone was getting an associate and bachelor's degree. But God led me to go ahead and get my master's degree. So then what happened, I was one of, I think, 2 people in the hospital that had their master's degree at that time. Wow. So I thank God that the chief nursing officer that was in place, she came in my office and she asked me, she said, so what are you planning to do with your master's degree? I said, well, I'm letting God lead me. And of course that surprised her, responding that way, in a professional work environment, which people don't want you to. But one thing that I've always done and made sure that everyone knew is who I served and who I was.
Yes.
I never bit my tongue when it came to that. So everyone understood and knew who I was and who I served. So God would come in. There would be times I would be under attack and I didn't even know. And God would shine a light on them, and where they would end up falling, where they were trying to attack me. And what they were hoping and wishing upon me actually reversed and happened to them. So my branding and my ministry is under Love and Worship Ministry. And one thing that I've been so fortunate to be able to do so many things. I make different trays, and the work that I do, it always has a religious base to it. Scriptures. I've done things for families where I've put their deceased loved one in a tray with the scripture, or different things like that. I've done T-shirts. I also plan funerals. Take over those responsibility for families. I've done gender reveal parties, wedding planner, just a lot of different things. And some people may consider that as work. I enjoy all of it. Right. And the thing is, I have not had to advertise. Word of mouth speaks for itself. So I haven't had to spend money on advertising or, letting people know I do this or I do that. I've just been so blessed by God that I have to tell individuals that it was God that opened those doors for me and opened the way for me and made ways for me and moved barriers that for some would have been, a long journey or had to have lawyers or different things involved. But then he blessed me to work for a group of lawyers. And I can use them as consults for different things, but I was reviewing charts, for them. So it didn't cost me extra money for the business ventures and things that I was doing. And it didn't cost me, to not be ethical, climbing the ladder in healthcare. It didn't cost me my soul. Climbing the ladder in healthcare, which some people it does, and they do it just because of the money. But one time I moved from one job to another job when God told me to, and I went like, Lord, okay, you positive? Because I was going to be making less money.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so I did it. Do you know within 30 days, I was making more money than I was making at the place that I left. And when I realized God was testing me to see
where you were
more willing to listen to him and where he was leading me versus following the money.
Yes.
I got a job once that I didn't even have an application at that company. And after I retired, they called me and they said, you know what? We forgot one step. We need to have you fill out an application. So this is how God has moved in my life. And you don't think that I'm not going to tell people who I am and who I serve,
right?
Where I am, no matter what I'm doing, through the selling of the trays, people know who I am. The T-shirts, people know who I am. Gender reveals, wedding, people know who I am. And I think that's why they choose me, because they know that I'm going to do them right. I'm not going to cheat them. I'm going to give them excellence. That's what people should expect when they come to you asking you to do something.
Yes. So there is Pastor Sean is on with us. So thank you for being here with us, Pastor Sean. I was telling the ladies in the back that we've known each other since we were like 6 and 7 and 8 years old, literally. Grew up together, families grew as families together, those kind of things. And we reconnected last year, and I was glad to reconnect with her. We've talked, we've had, conversations and texting. So she is going to share her experience as a woman, educator, a woman in ministry, as a business owner. And she shifted from one state to another, not knowing anything but following God's lead and listening to his lead, listening to his instructions. So I'm going to let her have the floor. I'll come back and say what I have to say, my little bit. I thank you all for being here with me on today. Prophetess Debbie, thank you for your input. And Dr. Love, thank you. I'm always excited to see you guys on Saturday Sit Down. If you're just now joining us, this is Saturday Sit Down on Winning in Prayer. We actually do this every Saturday of the month, the last Saturday of the month, where we tackle hard discussions, where we talk about topics that you may not hear in a regular setting. We are here every Saturday, every last Saturday of the month at 7 p.m. So share on tonight. I guarantee that you will like what you hear and what we'll be discussing. We are going to use scripture. We never leave this place without scripture. So go ahead, Pastor Sean, and tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll go from there.
Well, good evening. It has been a pleasure to listen to you ladies. My name is Shawn Claxton. I am a recent retiree. I come up on a year in about 3 days. My first year of actually being retired. I did not understand why God let me into the state system so young, but after 30 years, I was able to tap out of that and just actually have life. So I retired from the education system, higher ed. I worked in the system for a little bit over 30 years. I tapped in. I really wanted to work in higher ed, just honestly, so I could get a degree, because I had a baby right out of high school, and figured if I could at least work in the college, I would make sure to.
No, lost your sound.
Am I there? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
It took me 8 years to get an associate's degree because I could only go part-time because I was working. And then I went on and got my bachelor's and my master's, and they have it has been a blessing to me. And I can concur with Dr. Love. After I got my bachelor's degree, I was just offered a position. They're like, here are some jobs, you pick which one. And I picked it up. Then they told me, make sure you apply for it. And I was so fearful after applying for it. I was like, they may choose somebody different. And then I wanted to teach part-time. So I have taught in the medium security male prison, teaching them academic life skills as they prepare to transition out and back into the world. And I also teach women's studies. So I do understand that glass ceiling, glass escalator, trying to get to the next level and competitive in the process. And then during the pandemic, a gentleman that I knew kept talking about owning a business. And I heard him, but I did not. And one day he said something. I was like, what did you say? He was like, this is the third time I have tried to talk to you about this business. And I listened and I was like, let me think about it. And in the middle of I think around July of 2020, I prayed about it, and it was like the Lord gave me the name Destination Movement and Logistics. And it is my own dispatch company for independent operators of 18-wheel truck driving companies.
Yes.
And I do their dispatching, their loads. I submit all their documents. I keep paperwork for them for auditing purposes. And it became a source of income for me. And I too understand when you have to let a client go because they disrupted my peace, and I could not understand and how to stay where they needed. And I was all over, and I was like, God, this is all about you. And my journey into getting into it, this is how I knew that it was for me. I was listening to a lady online, and she did training in dispatch management and how to do it. And when I finally got a hold of her, she said, I'm so sorry, I'm not doing that anymore. I taped that last year and they just aired it this year. But she dropped her pastor's name. She said, oh, I live in Houston. I go to Kenyon's church. And I said, Pastor Keon Henderson? And she said, yes. I said, well, I follow him on Instagram. She said, just because you said that, I'm going to train you. And that is how I ended up getting Thursday. And she was like, are you available to start on Monday? And I said, yes. And at that time, I did not really know. I had started a t-shirt line as well. And I had kind of like backed off of that, of which I'm getting ready to reinvent myself and go back into that as well. Because it is this entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And, she trained me. I tapped in. It was like everything I needed was laid right at my feet. And I jumped in, and another friend of mine, she was a notary. She said, I gave someone your card. And I said, okay. And he reached out to me, and they must have dated me online, him and his wife, for about a month. And finally, he called me in the middle of the day, and I answered. He said, I told my wife, if you answered, we were going with you, because what we have found out is there are that are not accessible when we need them to be accessible.
Yes.
And as we begin to talk, he said, you're a Christian. I said, I am. I said, actually, I'm a Jesus follower. Just let me go on and put that out there. Right. And he said, I prayed that there would be a Christian that would work with me and help me build my business. And when we ran into you, we knew and we prayed. And so since then, he has transitioned, not transitioned, but he has referred some people to me. And so I'm happy where I am. I found out not to overextend myself, because sometimes we begin to chase money. And I don't believe in chasing money. I believe when we run after God, he'll give us everything that we need to align ourselves with him. I believe that it is out there for us, but I don't want that to be my be all end all, is trying to get a bag.
Right.
So I let my drivers know that are working with me, when you're up and moving at night, I make sure to cover their families in prayer. So you're not just getting a dispatch.
My God.
Asking God to the right loads for them, and how to intersect for them when we need intersection and we need things to come. And they'll call me, they'll say, you must have been praying, because I got just to write something. I was like, no, not a must have been. I was.
Yes.
Because I want them to know that nothing. They tapped into someone, and there is a higher power that is working on our behalf. So that is how I started my journey. And that's just the short version of it. And I'm enjoying retirement. I had someone ask me, are you trying to go back to work full time? I said, I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon.
Right.
If it is, the Lord will tell me when. But
Right.
right now, I'm enjoying not
Right.
having to do
Yes.
regular 8 to 5. But what I have found out is when you prepare early throughout time, when it's time to relax, there has been no lack. And for that, I am grateful.
Amen. What a wonderful way to even start out a business in God's favor, having God's favor and people that are in your path. He sets people in your path to get you where you need to go. If you just listen and be obedient. So Pastor Sean, she was obedient and listened. And then this is where she is now. She retired early, which most of us probably would have loved to retire at I don't want her to tell her age, but we're almost, I think we're the same age or maybe a year older, but she's early in her retirement. And so I am thankful and glad that we reconnected. She's my friend, and I'm so happy. Thank you for joining us, First Lady Vicky Holmes and Betty Gottlieb Davis Jackson. And I did see Pastor Sean's one of her brothers on, and I'm not really sure if it was Paul or I can't see the name, but thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to share a little bit of the word first. I'm going to go to Proverbs 31. I know we use that for the virtuous woman, things like that, but I'm going to talk about the verses that talks about her being in business and how she is preparing her life naturally and spiritually in her home. So Proverbs 31, 13 through 17. I had it printed, looked on my screen, but half of it's gone. It says, she seeks wool and flax, and she willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it's yet night and provides food for her household and a portion of her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it from her profits. She plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. So that's all about her business. That's all about her being an entrepreneur. It's all about her preparing for the next. That's all about her being a businesswoman, being a mom, being a wife, preparing her household. I don't know if many of you, when we started our business, because we've had cleaning businesses, and we would prepare our household and say, hey, we're not going to be here tonight. So-and-so is in charge. You guys get whatever homework you have. Let's see it. And then you're going to bed. So we had to prepare our household. So wise in preparing your natural life as well as your business life. It says she bought a plot. She sees a field, buys it, and plants a vineyard. She's preparing for the future. And so when we are in business, we are preparing for our next. We should not be in business just for right now. We should be preparing for the next. We should be preparing a legacy for our children, our grandchildren, to the fourth generation, as the word says. And as it goes on, we should be leaving something behind for our next. I know I hear a lot of people say, I'm not leaving my kids anything. Well, I don't think that's fair, but that's just me. Some people might think that, but I think that we should prepare. If you're not going to leave them anything, prepare them to be the next generation to move on in their life or whatever God has called them to be. So it is my experience with business. I don't have a master's degree. I don't have a doctor's degree, but God has given me favor in every job that I've been on. Glass Ceiling, I worked for one of the biggest box retailers in America and international now. At that time, it wasn't as big as it was. I started working for him in 94. I was working in the pharmacy. I had hit every goal that needed to be there. And I was like, Lord, I'm going to have to move because I worked for him for 7 years. And then they were trying to convince me to go to pharmacy school. And I was like, no, because it was going to take me to finished. And I was like, you're thinking of the now, not of the future when you're younger. And so I was like, no, I can't do that. So I decided to go into management. I was one of the few women that were hired in as management at that time. It was a what they call a good old boys club. So it was a lot of, should she be here? Should she be doing this? Why did you hire? Da 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 da. God found favor with the district manager. And God allowed me to step right into the management position. I was making money, but it was, again, not something that I was chasing after the money. Yes, it helped, but it was a lot of stress on that job, lots of stress. And so I was like, I told my husband when I had worked probably about 5 years by that time. And I told him, I came home and I said, I don't think I should be doing this any longer. I can't keep up with the pressure of it. And then what really scared me was there was a coworker that died. He had a heart attack. And I said, oh, yeah, God, that's my sign for me to find and do something else. I don't want to be under that kind of pressure. So I decided to leave there. I had been with them 17 years when I left. And that's a long time to be with somebody and wanting to start over and going to another place, those kind of things. So every job that I've been on, I've found favor. Even the one that I'm on now, Prophetess and I share the same career field in payroll. So it's something new to me because I had not been there. I've only been on this job for about 2 years, but God put me in this job because I wasn't even looking for this job. They called me. I said, it has to be you. I got to move. So I moved into this position. I'm learning a lot. It's tax time. And oh boy. So within it's crazy. And everybody wants something now, when you haven't done what you're supposed to do during the year. So it's kind of like, every day I laptop, I'm like, Lord, help me with this day, because I know something crazy is going to happen. So far, I've done and I've learned a whole lot. And I was talking to Pastor Sean maybe a week ago about moving into something else, into the retirement mode, but having income. So we're talking, we're going to talk about that. And then I wanted to let you ladies know that when you're in business, always know your worth. Don't let just because you go to church with them, just because you're friends with them, whatever your fee is, charge your fee. And because I want you to, I know you know your worth, I want you to charge your fee. Go ahead, Prophetess Debbie. Were you going to say something? And so charge your fee.
No, I was just agreeing, but I did want to add something. I wanted to just say that is so true, because your family, your friends, people that know you, it's always their expectation that, you're going to give them a discount. They come in with that mentality, whereas if they had to go out and get it from somebody else, they wouldn't even question it, and so you have to get to that place and that point where, because, people will try to challenge your Christianity or, you're supposed to whatever, no, God tells us also that in business that we should be men. We should act, behave in a way that I believe people will respect you when you set the price, you set the standard, because you're going to deliver professional service. You're going to deliver just what you said you're going to deliver. So the expectation of me, if I set this price, then you either pay the price or you can decide to choose another vendor or choose somebody else. But don't let me being a woman or even being somebody new, because that was one of the things that I was going back and forth when I had to let that client go. I'm like, Lord, he's my very first client, in as far as the payroll part of my business. But then, when I thought about it, it was just too much of a headache to, if I can't even get what I need from you to set you and get you set up as a business owner to process your payroll, pay your taxes, and do things like that, then you are already showing me you're going to be a problem, and in working with money and dealing with people's bank accounts and dealing with all that, it's the kind of business where you're going to either like it or you're going to hate it. There is like no in between, because there are stresses that come along with it. And so in those stressed times, you have to be able to lean into the spiritual part of, the job, whether it is I'm working on my job that sustains me for right now, or I'm working in my business. Right before I got on here, 2 hours I've spent getting my client prepared to do it with, to print out their W-2s and do the quarterlies and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a sacrifice, but again, we need God right here, no matter what we're doing. He has to be the front, at the front. He has to be in your mind, your heart, and everything you do, Lord. Whatever I do, I need you. I need you to lead me. I need you to give me the wisdom and knowledge. Continue to do a great job. And as Dr. Betty said, I'm a person as well. I work in a spirit of excellence. Whatever I do, I'm not going to just present junk. I'm going to give you my very best. Whatever it is that you're asking, I'm going to give that to you, because I believe that's another representation of God as well. God does it. When we ask him for something and we want God to do it, he don't just throw us things, or he doesn't just, why, you're getting on my nerves. I don't, he doesn't treat us like that. And so what if he deals with us out of love, out of compassion, out of understanding, out of, an ability to listen, then we got to deal with our coworkers and the people that we are customers that we have. We have to deal with them in the same manner. So I do think that it's important.
So I know that Pastor Sean, she actually already said how she started the her business, but I wanted to ask you first, Pastor Sean, who was your inspiration, or did you have an inspiration on becoming an entrepreneur? Was it someone that you talked to, or was it just God purely just giving you some instruction and direction?
I think down through the years, I've always wanted to do some type of business. I started in the, I'm trying to think back when I don't think I really have a direct answer for you. I just know over time, I was trying to really to think back, but I do know over time, as I was younger, I've always had an aspiration to want to do, my parents would probably say, yeah, that'd be her, my own thing. But I wanted to leave my stamp. And so I started out, I'll say more in fashion, because I enjoy clothes and all of that. So I started with a t-shirt line. And it really was something, even in that, when I put my hand to it, it was like God had blessed that and opened up doors with people just giving me what I needed to start. This second business was not even anything remotely that I would have placed myself in. So I do believe it was a divine alignment. If I go back to when we lived in Ohio as children, we used to travel back and forth because our family lived in Philadelphia. And we used to take that drive 3 or 4 times a year. And my father taught me the lingo of the truck drivers, because back then they had the CBs and they would put the things on top of the car, so we would understand what was going on. And it came back to me. I began to remember all the lingo that my dad had taught me some 40 years before. And I was like, wow. And I always had a fixation on diesel trucks. And I never knew where that came from. I just enjoyed them. And not to know that down the road, I would be actually working with owners of 18-wheel truck drivers. So there is always a niche for you. And when we align and ask God for his purpose, purpose and his direction, even in the name of it, I didn't just grab something. I was like, if this is what you want, I need a name. And he gave me destination and movement. It was nothing that I had because I didn't even know where to start. So each and every person that I tapped into was able to say, yes, and you can do this. And the gentleman that introduced me to it, he laid, I honestly, he laid such a good foundation. When I went to the training, I understood so much more because he had already given me a platform to learn. And so that helped me quite a bit.
And so, and the next question I have for anyone, they can answer this. Did you have a mentor to guide you? I know it's important for us, you know, you ask somebody to help you and they're like, oh yeah, let me show you this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, but I need to know the inside of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was there anyone that mentored you, that you felt like was a mentor? It could be someone you talk to every day, or it could just be someone that you've seen online, or you've seen go through business. Did anyone have that mentorship to guide you through your entrepreneurial process or your business process? Anyone can answer that.
I'll jump in. The lady that trained me still mentors me. So if I have a question, I can call her. If I don't understand, she will explain and expound. I follow her. She's on Instagram and you.
Uh-oh. We lost you, Pastor Sean. Your internet connection. Did anyone have a mentor while she comes back on? Anyone have a mentor or guidance to help them through their process?
It was interesting. The individuals that ended up being my mentor actually began as almost like an enemy.
Oh, wow.
And what happened, she was one of the ones that was envious of the degrees and the different things that I was obtaining, but her skill set was absolutely amazing. So one day she made a big mistake and she had to humble herself and come to me and talk about it. And I actually gave her feedback and direction on how she should handle it. Well, that was a blessing for her and it was a blessing for me, because actually at that point, both of us ended up being great friends. I could go to her about things for experience. She could talk to me. I was much younger than her at that point, so I could talk to her about things that applied to the younger employees. But, you know, when I first met her and how her interactions with me, I would have never dreamed that years later, I would have looked up to her. But her behavior was out of fear. She was afraid of me. She didn't know me, so she was afraid of me. But she ended up being one of the best mentors I ever had, actually.
And sometimes, you know, even with a mentor, doesn't necessarily have to be a friend. It could be your foe on your job. It was the same way for me when I went into management. It was a foe on my job that actually would say, hey, this is how you're supposed to do it. Let me show you so you know the right way. So our mentors don't necessarily have to be our friends. They don't necessarily have to really like us. They just need the, like Dr. Love said, the skill set. I'm watching your skill set. I'm watching how you work and you come in here and work every day. I want to be like that person. I want to do that over there. I want, you know, whatever she's achieved, or he or she has achieved, I want to do that. So our mentors, again, do not have to be your friend. They just need to give you the help that you need and get you where you need to go. So my next question is, I've had this before when I was interested in a field and I asked someone, you know, can you show me what you did? How did you start? You know, what was your foundation? You know, everybody has to have some kind of foundation. So has anyone discovered, like, when you ask someone about their business or you're interested in, have you ever noticed that they kind of like don't want to tell you? Have you guys ever experienced that? Or they kind of like give you like the of it and they're like, you know, let you go. And like Dr. Love said, that sometimes they're intimidated or fearful. And, you know, it's millions of people out here. I don't have to have your customers. You know, I can have my own set of customers. I just need you to tell me how to get there. Has anybody experienced that before where they're not really sure and they don't give you the information that you need? Has anybody else had that experience before?
Daily. I mean, it's just honestly, it's so many different experiences where you're asked an individual question like, oh, how did you do that? And they're very vague about it. Right? You know, something I've learned over the years, it is about fear. They think you're going to take their customers, or they're going to share an idea with you and you're going to go off with that idea, or you know, different things like that. I've had it happen to me. I've talked to individuals. I've talked about an idea that I've had, and next thing I know, they're doing it. But you know what? I said, if God had it just for me, it would have been just for me. So I don't get upset about that, you know, that situation. You know, earlier you mentioned scripture, and I don't want us to leave without, because I want to share that even on my journey with all the different things and the people that I have experienced and the barriers and all the different things, Exodus 14 is one of the scriptures that I always kept in my heart, or always kept written somewhere where it says, stand still and see the salvation of the Lord.
Right.
So that's why I had to learn to quell my, Minister mentioned earlier how you can't get upset, in the work environment, you then become an angry Black woman and, different things like that. So I had to learn, how to deal with and remain professional when I was in a situation where I could have easily blown up and really would have been in right to do that. But again, who I'm representing, I can't do that. So I had to, carry myself in a different way.
Right.
But I had to learn to stand still.
Right.
And each that I stood still and allowed God to step in, it was always a much better outcome than me trying to interrupt, me trying to plan it, because I'm a planner. That's my personality. That's who I am. So that's one thing God had to work with me on, is slowing me down and allow me to stop and listen to the direction that he wanted me to go in. Because my personality, I would go boom, 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 boom. That's my personality. But God had to still show me, yes, I instilled that personality within you, but you still have to listen to me. Period.
Right. I want to ask Pastor Sean, and then we're almost done for the night. I appreciate everyone that is on tonight. Yes, it was Paul Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining us, Paul, which is Sean's brother. He says he does remember your dad on the CB2, so he's right along with you. I want to ask Pastor Sean, how important is it for women to support other women in ministry and as well as in business? How important is that?
It's big, because we should be a sisterhood. There's nothing worse than seeing my sister trying to pull me down. And especially if we're of the same, it is hard. So when you boost me, we grow together. And if you're not pulling me, that means we have some unhealed areas in our life. And we need to check. Business is not the place for you to step out and to try to pull someone else. Because as soon as you try, guess what? Somebody is going to try to do that same thing for you.
Yes.
Dr. Love gave her scripture. Mine is Habakkuk. Write the vision and make it plain, so he may run that readeth it. A lot of times we don't write the vision plain enough. We don't study. We have to prepare. You have to know what you're getting into. And sometimes we don't know. My brother, you said Paul is online. Paul is big for business. And when I took my idea, he's always he's my mentor too. Even though he's younger than me, he knows a lot in business. And he says, sometimes, Sean, you're not going to know everything, but you got to take what little bit you know and go, because you're going to learn as you go. It's just like education. You don't get it all at one time. But as you move along, you go along, and you'll be able to look back and pull from it. He said, but don't stunt yourself by not knowing all the answers. And so preparation, laying it out, having a business plan, and understand and finding that safe place, because whoever your mentor is now may not be your mentor 10 years from now. They may be seasonal or situational. You don't have to have the same person each level. But when we pray, God always opens us up to the right people. When I have a lady in Vegas, when I started my t-shirt business, she gave me so much information. It was unbelievable. And I said, do you do this for everybody? She said, no, but I'm doing it for you. So I knew I had favor. And if I call her now and ask, she'll open me up, share her screen. This is what you do. This is what you do. And then she'll say, and you better not say it to anybody, because you can't share all the tidbits. So we have to, and what we give to make sure that we give the right information to people, so they can build and we can build and we can grow together. But yes, we do need the partnership, because we have so many other forces working against us.
Right.
So it's important to pray about who we come into connection with. And I believe when we let God shine in us and through us, he'll put us with divine connection.
Yes. Dr. Love, you have something? No. Okay. So we have like 5 minutes before we wrap up the show. But I just wanted to cite some information about women in business. So this is by Fundaria. 6 days ago, this is what they cited for women in business. 12.3 million women owned businesses, generates 1.8 trillion a year. 40% of U.S. businesses
Wow.
are women-owned. 64% new women-owned businesses started by women of color in 2022. Latino women-owned businesses grew
Wow.
more than 18% in 2022. We noticed in COVID, there was a lot of women that were in business because they lost their jobs. So this has added to the entrepreneurial of women and the businesses in America. Women started business 1,821 businesses a day, new businesses a day, every day last year. So last year, every day, 1,821 new businesses owned by women. And that's black, white, green, orange, whatever you are. That's women that have started businesses. And I believe that God has given us women a certain knack
That's
of
awesome.
starting something when there is nothing. Or when there is nothing, you don't have nothing, but you start something.
Right.
So he's given us that special talent. It's just like cooking a meal. You get a meal, and that meal, I really don't know what to do with these potatoes, but you start thinking about opening that cabinet, you see stuff, you're like, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna make that, and you're like, I have to call this, but I started from nothing and I'm eating it. So my family loves it. So I think that I want you all to speak to the last few minutes about dreaming, people that want to start a business and not sure where to start. Anyone can start. We just got a few minutes, so you can tell them where to start. Where do you start? What's the foundation? What is the foundation? And anyone can answer that.
I'll start. I would just say it for me with how my business came about was because of my love. I learned 30 years ago I left a job. I was working for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I didn't know that I really loved the numbers thing, and I loved the figuring out and how to do things. And I got this job. I'd never done payroll before, but what I found out, because dreams and entrepreneurship usually comes out of something that's already there. You may not necessarily know that it's there, but it's there. And so all it takes is that tapping into. And from after spending 30 years doing payroll and working in finances, I found it was a love. And it's something that challenged me, and it's something that God had already put in me, because when I'm doing that job of payroll, finance, accounting, I'm like in heaven. Like it feels good because, I'm using my mind. I'm challenging myself. I'm trying to balance a spreadsheet, and I'm off 5 cents, and I got to figure out, the debits and the credit and what's wrong and what's off. But I found that was what was in me. And so God will, when you allow him to tap into and to show you, 9 times out of 10, it's already there. It was in me. I just didn't know it was in me. And then the business came about from me. Okay, I've been making people billions of dollars for 30 years. It's time for me to get a cut of the pie and start making money for myself using my gift. I'm a businesswoman. I know it inside out. I know, and like Pastor, when she said, some things are you just know, it's there. You may not necessarily know at the beginning, years, back, but you just know. And so I knew, I always knew that even when I was working for people would look at me, they would come to my job and try to steal me away from that job because of the knowledge that I had. But it was something that God put in me as a young woman. And so I believe it starts, if even in your children, if you see something in them, you have young teenage entrepreneurs that make millions and millions of dollars, begin to watch and pay attention and tap into whatever that gift is. Allow God to lead you and guide you, and you'll land right where you're supposed to be. When it's time, you'll land.
So Pastor Sean, did you have, we got just a minute left on the show, but can you just give last words and then pray us out? And then I appreciate you being here. I appreciate everyone having their input. I hope that everyone's watching, that they have enjoyed tonight, but give your last, whatever you want to say, and then you can pray us out, and we will be leaving. We'll see you next month, the last Saturday of every month, meet us here on Winning in Prayer. Go ahead, Pastor Sean.
I'm going to say, follow your passion. I love people. Every job I've has had to do with people, cultivating people, opening doors. I'm very strong in the gift of